401ks. Now the real question is, can stocks keep going into the new year? Let's bring in George See. He is the founder and chairman of the investment management firm Annandale Capital. Thank you for joining us here as we kick off into 2020. What can we expect? Any hints?
Well, it's interesting, Molly. The historical data would show you that when you have a great year like we did in 2019, that the following year is pretty good too, which is a little counterintuitive. You would think after such a big year we might give some of it back, but the odds are pretty good we're going to have another good year.
Just looking back at the last decade, absolutely stellar as far as gains, 10 years of gains. The S&P 500 up 189, the Dow higher by 173, NASDAQ 294. I mean, could we expect something like that in this next coming decade, or is that just too much to hope for?
I think it's good to keep expectations muted. When you have as good a decade as we just had, it's really hard to follow up on that. But usually stocks are positive over a decade, so time is your friend when you own stocks. The longer you hold them, the better off you do. But it's going to be hard to duplicate last decade's performance. If we get half of that, I think that'd be a pretty good decade.
Now, a lot of folks out there taking a quick glance at the 401k as the year wraps up, seeing, really nice numbers. They often tell you, you shouldn't look at your 401k too often, but when people are taking a look here in this last week as the year rounded out and ended, can they feel pretty good going forward as well?
They should, yeah, and especially if they've got more time on their hands. And they ought to also try to every single year add to that, because you not only want the market working for you, but you want additional contributions to be made so that you can increase your retirement egg that way too. So they ought to really focus on saving.
A good year for the economy overall. We've seen, the low jobless rate, wage growth, unemployment levels continuing to drop. Is that what we can expect into the new year, or will things begin to level off on that front where we've seen such change?
Well, people have been forecasting a recession for about the past 4 years, and they haven't gotten it yet. So I think we tend to anticipate a downturn before it actually happens. And Jamie Dimon, the chairman of J.P. Morgan, actually said this really well at the start of last year, that there's no law that a recession has to occur after a 10-year economic upturn. We could get several more years of positive economic growth, and obviously that's a good thing for the country. So I hope that's what we get and we don't fall into a recession anytime soon. I think there's a good chance we won't.
And just real quick on trade, because this is kind of one of the big things that are happening as we head into January, the deal with China being signed, potentially the president's trip to Beijing, phase 2 in the works. Is that a major player here?
It is, yeah. It'll be really good for our country and for China if we resolve a second part of the trade deal that's much more substantive than the first one. But I think what people have lost sight of is that the deal we just agreed upon and got through the Congress with Mexico and Canada is even more important. They're larger trading partners of ours than China is. So that actually was a huge win for the country that they got that across the goal line.
Yeah, and a bipartisan effort there at the end of the year, something to think about. George See, thank you so much for sharing your insights as we begin a new year. Appreciate it.
Great to be with you all. Thanks.
7 people arrested in the killings of